shuttle to deploy a probe to another planet. The first shuttle to dock to a space station. And the first shuttle to fly with a glass cockpit. And now, Atlantis will lead the shuttle fleet to a final first, as it becomes the first space shuttle to complete its scheduled flights. Atlantis will return to Earth to stay following its mission on STS-132. The array of missions Atlantis has flown is as wide as the oceans once sailed by the 20th century research vessel for which it was named. Atlantis has flown missions for national security, for interplanetary exploration, and to foster international cooperation. On October 3, 1985, Atlantis launched from Pad 39A on its maiden voyage, STS-51J.
Ignition and liftoff. Liftoff of Atlantis. A new orbiter joins the shuttle fleet, and it has cleared the tower.
Commanded by shuttle veteran Carol Bobko, the classified Department of Defense flight was the first of 5 Pentagon missions Atlantis completed. After traveling more than 1 million miles, Atlantis landed at Edwards Air Force Base just 4 days later, on October 7th. Later that year, on just its second flight, Atlantis set a shuttle record for the least amount of time between missions. On November 26th, the orbiter headed back to space on STS-61B, just 50 days after completing its previous flight. Making his first space flight on that crew was mission specialist and spacewalker Jerry Ross, whose 7 career space flights, including 5 on board Atlantis, would set a record matched by just 1 other astronaut. 3 communication satellites were deployed during the flight. During 2 spacewalks, Ross and Woody Spring also conducted a construction experiment to demonstrate the feasibility of assembling large structures in space. The successful experiment was an early proving ground for the engineering and construction of future space stations. During the next 3 years, Atlantis flew just 1 mission. The tragic loss of Space Shuttle Challenger and its crew in January 1986 prompted the grounding of Atlantis and the rest of the shuttle fleet until September 1988. In 1989, Atlantis was back in action, completing 2 missions to provide a closer look at 2 neighboring planets. The primary payload for STS-30 in May of that year was the Magellan spacecraft, designed to capture radar images of Venus. Magellan, which was the first interplanetary spacecraft launched from a space shuttle, eased into orbit around Venus in August 1990. Mapping 98% of the planet before its mission came to an end in October 1994. 5 months later, on STS-34, Atlantis was back in space for the deployment of the Galileo spacecraft on its voyage to Jupiter. It took 6 years for Galileo to arrive at the solar system's largest planet, and when it did, it became the first spacecraft to both orbit and release a probe to penetrate through the atmosphere of an outer planet. It collected data on Jupiter and its moons for the next 8 years.
And flight crew, this is OTC. Close and lock your risers. Initiate O2 flow. Godspeed on the 100th U.S. manned mission in space.
Flight crew copies. Risers in O2. Thanks for the data.
On June 27, 1995, Atlantis embarked on a mission which significantly expanded the new era of international cooperation.
Running. 2, 1. and liftoff of the Space Shuttle Atlantis on a mission that will herald a new day of international cooperation in space.
Houston now controlling.
STS-71 was the third mission of the Shuttle Mir program. But Atlantis, whose crew included cosmonauts Anatoly Soloviev and Nikolai Budarin, became the first shuttle to dock with the Russian space station Mir.
After 20 years, our spacecraft are docked in orbit again. Our new era of space exploration has begun.
The crews conducted a host of biomedical investigations and transferred equipment. The mission also marked the first on-orbit exchange of shuttle crew members. Astronaut Norm Thagard and cosmonauts Vladimir Dezhurov and Gennady Strikalov, who flew to Mir on a Russian Soyuz vehicle, returned to Earth on board Atlantis. In a complex orbital ballet, Soloviev and Budarin captured these images from their Russian Soyuz, which undocked just minutes before Atlantis departed Mir. The union of Atlantis and Mir created the largest spacecraft to orbit the Earth at that time.
And it's just about time for the Spirit of 76 to wake up the space show, so have a great flight. All right, we'll put that in work. Thanks very much.
2, 1. Booster ignition and liftoff of Atlantis on the third Shuttle Mir docking flight.
Atlantis visited Mir on its next 6 flights. The crew of the STS-76 mission in March of 1996 included Shannon Lucid, who became the first American woman to live on Mir. Her 188-day stay on board the station set an American long-duration spaceflight record at the time, a record for most days in space by a woman, and initiated a continuous U.S. presence on Mir for the next 2 years. And astronauts Linda Godwin and Rich Clifford completed the first U.S. spacewalk around 2 docked vehicles while wearing jet backpacks known as Simplified Aid for EVA Rescue, or SAFERS. In the spacewalk, they attached 4 environmental payloads to the Mir's docking module. Atlantis flew to Mir 3 times in 1997, but the last of those flights, STS-86, was in question up until its scheduled launch in September. Safety concerns arose after a Progress resupply ship collided with Mir a few months earlier during an attempted manual docking. The collision damaged the Mir's Spectre module, which had to be sealed off from the rest of the station because it was losing pressure. On the day Atlantis was scheduled to launch, NASA Administrator Dan Golden summarized his decision to proceed with the flight.
Not only is the Mir station deemed to be a satisfactory life support platform at this time, but it is anticipated that significant operational and scientific experience is still to be gained through continued joint operations.
Atlantis docked to Mir on September 27th. Over the next 6 days, the crews transferred consumables, experiments, and other materials. Scott Parazynski and Vladimir Titov also conducted the first joint U.S.-Russian spacewalk, installing an external device to help seal the breach in Spectre from the vacuum of space. The continuous U.S. presence on Mir was preserved as astronaut Dave Wolf joined the Mir crew, replacing Mike Foale, who returned to Earth on board Atlantis. In 2000, almost 2 years after Zarya, the first component of the International Space Station, was launched from Kazakhstan, Atlantis completed a pair of missions that were crucial to the development of the ISS. During STS-101 in May of 2000, Atlantis' astronauts outfitted Zarya for the July arrival of the Zvezda service module, essential for sustaining the first long-duration expedition crew. And on the mission, Atlantis became the first shuttle to employ the new advanced instrumentation display system known as the glass cockpit. On STS-106 in September 2000, Atlantis delivered supplies and Zvezda was opened for business for the first time in preparation for Expedition 1, the station's first crew. Their arrival in November marked the start of a continuous human presence on board the ISS that remains unbroken.
3, 2, 1, 0, and liftoff